Zimbabwe plans to hold a 26% free carry share in new mining projects and negotiate similar stakes in existing operations to address wealth distribution imbalances and boost state revenue. Well, joining me for more on this, I have from Harare, Zimbabwe, Dr. Prosper Chitambara, a developmental economist. Thank you so much for joining me today, Doctor.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right, so Doctor, talk to us. What's your view of this particular policy? What do you make of it?
Well, I think it's an idea that has just been floated by the permanent secretary in the Ministry of Mining. So I think it's something that's still open for a lot of negotiations, a lot of consultations, especially with the investors or even the potential investors within the mining sector. Obviously, government is seeking to have a greater control and more revenues from the mining sector. The mining sector in Zimbabwe is affected by a number of challenges, including the issue of illicit financial flows. So I'm sure government is looking at probably addressing some of those challenges through having a greater control in terms of mining investments in Zimbabwe.
But then, don't you think this could have an impact, on Zimbabwe's mining sector, particularly on foreign investment and even investor confidence? What do you make of that? What do you think?
Yeah, definitely. I think that's one of the biggest downside risks. Because if you are assuming 26% of shareholding on a free carry basis, it's effectively an indirect tax on the mining sector. So obviously that could discourage investments or even potential investments in the mining sector, especially given the fact that the mining sector in Zimbabwe is one of the most heavily taxed sectors across the region or even on the African continent. In fact, a few weeks back or a few months back, the Chamber of Mines carried out a study to determine the effective tax rate within the mining sector. And they actually came up with a rate of 69%, which is way higher than South Africa at 44%, Zambia at 55%, and even the DRC at 61%. So this could actually discourage investments, obviously not just in the mining sector, but also even across the other sectors. So I think that's why it's important for there to be very honest conversations around this whole issue before coming up with a policy.
Right. Now, talk to us about, this plan by the government and what you make of how it will probably be able to finance its acquisition of stakes in established mining projects. And, what are the implications of this for the national budget? I mean, if government is taking up to 26%.
So I think that's one of the gray areas that's not very clear in terms of financing. But if it's strictly a free carry basis, it means government won't be paying anything. So it's like a government is taking over 26% shareholding. So I think that's an area that would need to be discussed in terms of whether there will be some kind of payment or compensation for the shareholding in the mining companies or in the mining investments. Because at the moment, the fiscal space is very, very limited, and it may be challenging to mobilize resources to be able to purchase 26% of shares within the mining sector.
Well, if it's free, then I think it might just be an easy one for the government. Now, talk to us. I mean, you're talking about there should have been some form of conversations before this announcement. What are the things you feel should be put in place before we can then, go ahead with this?
No, I think obviously the Ministry of Finance plays a key coordinating role in terms of even the rolling out of the dialogue around this move or this plan, but also even within the context of our social dialogue platform, which is the tripartite negotiating forum. I think it's something that also needs to be discussed to at least all the key stakeholders, including the employees, the workers, are also on board. So both the government, the mining sector in terms of the employers, but also the employees, the trade unions must be involved in terms of these negotiations through our already established social dialogue platforms. I think that will be critical going forward.
Well, let's have an overview of Zimbabwe's mining sector. Talk to us about it.
So the mining sector has been one of the key sectors contributing to growth. Of course, growth has been a bit slow over the past few years on account of climate-induced shocks. But in terms of foreign currency inflows, the mining sector contributes more than 80% to the total foreign currency inflows in Zimbabwe. Of course, it has also been affected, obviously, by this year in particular, the issue of power outages because of the drought. Our hydroelectricity generation capacity has been seriously undermined because of the drought. So the mining sector has been affected by the droughts. And also even the instability in terms of the currency volatility, it obviously has also affected the mining sector. Of course, in the recent past, we've seen some modicum of stability in terms of the foreign currency markets on account of the tight liquidity situation within the country. But it's not operating at optimal levels, largely on account of these external factors, especially the power situation, but also even the high tax burden. So obviously that has affected the mining sector quite adversely.
Dr. Prosper Chitambara, Developmental Economist, thank you so much for your time and your thoughts on Business Age. I'm afraid we will not be able to go further. Thank you so much for your time and thoughts.